Hi, and welcome to Six Figure Signature Offers, the podcast for women in business who want to create brands that become the hot tamale of their industry and sold out scalable offers that bring home the bacon without burning them out. I'm your host, online business strategist Robin Birkin. I've gone from managing 8-figure marketing budgets and big teams to creating 2 multi-6-figure businesses in part-time hours by design. If you're ready to attract Cloud9 clients in droves, sell out your scalable offers, and not bring your laptop to the beach, then welcome, let's go. Hi, today's episode is a very short but very practical and I really hope super helpful episode for you as I speak to you about some of the things that allow me to create a multiple 6-figure business in 20 hours or less per week. And by less per week, holy moly, do I mean right now, so much less. So my kids are in school and typically on a school day, I will work 5 hours in a day and I take every Friday off. However, most of the time they're on bloody school holidays that feel like they're never ending. The last one's just gone, which was 2.5 weeks. I had 2 work days. However, we have also got a puppy and I don't feel like I have worked as little in my business in a long time. And I am absolutely still finding my feet with how to juggle and navigate both of those things at the same time, a business and a puppy, because right now it feels like I have a baby that needs me all the time. So if you're like, oh my God, I have no time to run my business, I see you and I hear you and I feel you. And these are some of the things in my business that I am just going to riff on to you that I wish someone had told me right in the earliest days of running my business. And I also want to speak to you if you are in a season where you are a service provider or you are in a heavy season of parenting or lifing, or you're a service provider like a salon owner or an agency owner, and you just cannot feel like you can get a break in your business, and like how on earth are people showing up for social media, creating all of these programs, finding the time to sit down and do all of the things. I see you in it because I know that it can feel really stressful, and I know that it can feel like, oh my God, you're tired and you are in a season where it just feels like there is so much to do. Even if you're in a season when you are launching for the very first time and delivering for the first time your group program and you're like, this is a lot. Is this going to be forever? I want to reassure you that a couple of things. Number one is that when I have been in seasons when I have had the least amount of time to work in my business, these have been some of my most successful times in business. I know when I think back, I romanticize the time in my business when I was making multiple 6 figures in just 6 hours a week. All I had at that time was Fridays because I was still working in corporate. One of my children wasn't even in school yet. And all I had was 6 hours. And in that 6 hours, I was also running my husband's business, like all of the admin side, and also paying the bills, doing the life admin, going to the chemist, all of those kind of things in those times. And I romanticize that. Like I look back now at that business, and the reason why it worked so well was because I was not getting distracted by bullshit. I was really only doing the things that mattered. And like before that, I was working even more, but it was so scattered. It was like one day I'll be on YouTube, then I'll produce a podcast, then I'll sit and edit the podcast. And at that time, because it was me editing the podcast, it was only going out once every 3 weeks at best. Then I had my daughter and we didn't put out an episode for 4 months. I had just a single 90-minute session. I think I may have had some low ticket offers. I had my online course. I had some freelance clients and I took on one-to-one clients as well. So I had all these moving parts to the business and it felt so chaotic, like just level 10 chaotic. And everything felt easier and then became more successful when I said, actually, I'm going to fire my freelance clients. I am going to stop going on YouTube and I'm going to focus just on my podcast. Even though YouTube is great, it can be great, etc. I was like, no, I need to just focus on the one thing that I'm good at, which is going to be the podcast and Instagram. I'm going to double down and I'm just going to have this one online course that I launch 4 times a year. And then the rest of my time is spent either producing podcast episodes or producing Instagram content. And I'm going to keep it very rinse and repeat. Of course, because it was so streamlined and because I didn't have many calls in the calendar, it grew. I did have upsells in my business. I had other things on the back end. I did end up launching low ticket offers, etc. But it was by and large successful because I didn't have time to keep looking to the left and looking to the right. I only had the time to do this one thing and do it well. Then when I look even now at my business and how I was able to grow to multiple 6 figures in just over a year, the reason for that was because, again, I didn't have a lot of time. Now, with the puppy, holy moly, like I again feel like I don't have a lot of time in my business, but I also feel very directed in one lane. I'm doing one thing and doing one thing super, super well. I'm focusing on what matters. I also want to remind you though, these seasons do not last forever. So there is always going to be seasons when you can put in some more, seasons when you put in less, and know that it always evens out, and know that it's really normal that there are going to be seasons of like hustle in your business. But here are some things that have worked for me. Number 1, non-negotiable, take Fridays off. I need Fridays. It's when the kids are at school and it is not a work day, but it is the day when I get to say, okay, I'm going to get my hair done. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to go take my mum out to lunch. And that is a day that recharges my soul and re-energizes me. One of the reasons why I almost never get burnt out in my business is because I always take Fridays off. The other thing I do is I have no calls on a Monday outside of a call with my VA. So I have a call with my VA on Monday afternoon, but also on Mondays is when I get to say, okay, hang on, what's happening this week? What are my priorities? What do my books look like? What do my numbers look like? The other thing that I do on Mondays is I audit client materials inside the Mastermind. So whether that's their sales page or their podcast episodes, their Instagram profile, their emails, whatever it is, they can submit that for an audit. And every Monday I sit down and I audit their work. The next thing that happens is I have standards for absolutely everything. So a lot of the time I hear stories of people joining a mastermind and they say, I submitted this thing for her to audit and I just never heard back. I don't do that. I have a standard. So when you submit something for an audit, you will receive that back from me within 2 weeks. Often it is sooner because they can submit their audit on a Friday and then I sit down and do audits on the Monday. However, I have the standard that you will receive it within 2 weeks. When someone messages me in the coaching channel on Slack, I have the standard which I communicate that they will have a response from me within 24 hours. Everyone is on the same page and I know what is expected, so therefore I know how often I need to check into Slack to make sure that my clients are supported. It could be, I suppose, as little as 1 time a day, but typically I check into my Slack channel 3 times per day. And so because I have those standards in the business, that is where I am able to allocate my time effectively. And then what I do is I clump all of my calls into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I have a lot of clients who will say to me, like, I'm just feeling so burnt out in my business. I feel like I can never get anything done. And one of the reasons for that is because they're so loosey-goosey with their calendar and nothing has its own sort of set place. People can book in for discovery calls whenever. Like if I don't have something booked into the calendar, I just show that in my calendar as free time. And I'm like, no. So you want to have set times for everything in your business. There is a set time that people can book in for discovery calls. You might have like 2 or 3 times that are open for you to hold discovery calls. But what you don't want is literally Monday to Friday, people to be able to book in, like one person just randomly books in on 8 a.m. on a Monday, the next person books in at 10 a.m. on the Monday, and then literally all week, there's never any time to do any deep work because you're constantly context switching between different things. So where possible, I run all of my calls not only Tuesday to Thursday, but I try to get all of my calls finished in the morning. And I run my business on a weeks like 1, 2, 3, and 4. Week 4 of the month, that entire week, is also a no call week. I will weeks 1 of the month also sometimes have calls, but typically I also try to clump all of my calls into weeks 2 and 3 of the calendar. And that way I have very clear times when I need to be on and working my business and very clear times when I do not need to be working in my business. 2 more things that I do that enable me to make multiple 6 figures in 20 hours per less in my business. One is that I do not overstuff calls and I do not have a call heavy client roster. So I take on a very small number of one-to-one clients. I have a maximum of 2 one-to-one clients at any given time. However, many clients within the mastermind have quarterly one-to-one calls. Not monthly, not weekly. They have quarterly one-to-one calls, and that is a strategic time that they will sit down and personally work with me on the strategy and the funnel in their business. The rest of the time for people in the mastermind, it is about execution and about troubleshooting. And for that, we have 2 hot seat calls every single month and Slack every day. So I'm not overstuffing everything with calls, and in the mastermind we have 3 calls per month. I see other people who have masterminds that have like 5 calls per week or sometimes even more, and it's like an office hours call and one day is a funnel call, one day is a strategy call. And that to me is not only confusing to your clients and not the best use of your clients' time if they're coming to all of those calls, but it's also not in the best interests of everyone keeping everything streamlined and being able to invest the majority of their time in execution, which is what I want from people in the mastermind. So you can basically get asynchronous support from me like every single day. So because we run primarily through Slack and through asynchronous support, and that works so well. One of the reasons why a lot of people will come into the mastermind is specifically because it is not overstuffed with calls, but it does have full access to me and my brain. And then the very last thing is that I personally do not routinely do discovery calls, and that is because my calendar these days is so hard to get into. So I will always hold a call with someone if they feel that they need that. But my process is very clear that you will apply. That way you get to ask any questions that you have and I get to answer that right up front. And then we primarily have an Instagram DM conversation. That means that if I really wanted to, I could be doing that in the car. I could be doing that on a walk. But typically it's me sitting down at the office because I've got like 5 minutes here and there between puppies and kids and cooking dinners and all of those kind of things. And those are the things that help me create a multiple 6-figure business in 20 hours or much less most of the time every single week. All right. That's all from me. I hope that helps and I hope that gives you some food for thought. There was a time when I used to run discovery calls at all times of the day, 1 million calls in my mastermind all the time, had no clear boundaries on when things would happen, not only just for me, but communicated back to my clients. And I felt exhausted. So having those boundaries, having those communications, and really segmenting my time has made me be able to do so much more in so much less time. That's all from me today. I hope to catch you next week and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.